Good morning, everyone. Myself Ajayram. Today I am going to discuss about the topic subprograms. A subprogram is nothing but a module of a program. Whenever we take a large complex program, it will be divided into group of modules and each module will be accessed separately. So each module there is called as a subprogram. A subprogram definition describes the interface to and the actions to the subprogram abstraction. In different languages, we have different names for the same subprogram. A subprogram has two parts. One is a subprogram header, and the second one is a subprogram definition. The subprogram header is the first part of the definition, which includes the name of the subprogram, the kind of the subprogram, and also the formal parameters. And the most important point about the subprogram is it has a single entry point, and the callings program is suspended during the execution of the called program. So this happens in a subprogram. Let's see more about the subprogram in detail. We can have these type of parameters here. Already we know there are two types of parameters. One is the actual parameters and the second one is the formal parameters. Along with the actual parameters and the formal parameters, here we have two more parameters. One is the positional parameters, and the second one is the keyword parameters. So in the positional way of corresponding the parameters, the binding of actual parameters to the formal parameters is by means of position. So here we connect the actual parameters to the formal parameters by means of its position. Like the first like the first value in the actual parameters is connected to the first value in the formal parameter, and the same way the second value in the actual parameter is connected to the second value of the formal parameter. So in this way, by means of positions, the actual parameters are connected to the formal parameters. So by using these positional types of parameters, it is a bit of safe and also effective to use the parameters. Then we have the keyword type of parameters. So here in keyword type of parameters, the name of the formal parameter to which the actual parameter is to be bound is specified with the actual parameter. So while declaring the actual parameters, for all the parameters, we give some keywords. For example, if there are three parameters, we give three keywords, and by means of those three keywords, we access the formal parameters. So this happens in the keyword type of parameters. And then we have the formal parameters. As we have learned about the formal parameters and actual parameters in C language. So in languages like C++, Python, Ruby, Ada, and PHP, the formal parameters have the default values. Like if there are no actual parameters passed, then the formal parameters will have certain default values. And in C++, the default parameters must appear last because the parameters are positionally associated with each other. Then we can see here in C sharp, the variable it has a variable number of parameters, and in C sharp the methods can accept a variable number of parameters as long as they have the same type. Same type means the same data type. And in Ruby, if you consider the Ruby language, the actual parameters are sent as elements of the hash literals. We use the hash literal there for all the variables which we declare, or whatever the parameters we declare. We write a hash literal along with the variable, and the corresponding formal parameters are preceded by a asterisk. So the formal parameters are sent as elements of hash literal, and the formal parameters are preceded by the asterisk. So this happens in Ruby. And when we go with the Python language, here the actual parameters is nothing but a list of values, and the corresponding formal parameters is a name with an asterisk. So in certain languages, like in all the languages, we have different means of accessing the parameters, formal parameters and also actual parameters. Then you can see here in Ruby, so it has a number of iteration functions by using the by using the process or whatever we access the elements of the arrays. So here these whatever iterations we have, all the iterations are implemented by means of blocks, and all the blocks are attached to the method calls. So those method calls will have the parameters. We can see here definition. Def is nothing but the keyword which we use for the subprograms in Ruby and also in Python. The Fibonacci is the name, and last, the word last is the parameter. Then we get the variables first, second. The values are 1, comma 1. The first is associated with this one, and the second is associated with this. Then the first statement, while first should be less than equal to last. Yield first. Yield is nothing but the printing part. So whenever those the methods are executed, we should execute a yield statement. So in that case, we wrote here yield first. Then first comma second is equals to second comma first plus second. So the second element becomes the first element, and the first plus second element, the combination will become the second element. So this goes on like a iteration, and we'll get the Fibonacci of the elements. So this happens in Ruby blocks. Then this is the main part of the subprograms, like in different languages, like in Fortran, if we consider, the subprogram is called as a subroutine. We use the word subroutine. And in Ada and Pascal languages, we use the word procedure. And in C language, we use the word void. If there is no return data type, we use void, or just use the return data types as int, float, you know. And in Python, we use the keyword def. So these are all the different keywords we use in different languages. And the adder is the name of the method, and these are the list of parameters. This is a diagrammatical representation. Subroutine we initially consider the subprogram. In C Java, we call it as functions. In Ada Pascal, we call it as procedures. In Python, we call it as definition, and in Fortran, we call it as subroutine. Then procedures and functions. So both the procedures and functions are the same with a minute difference. So when we go with the procedures, they are the collection of statements that define the parameterized computation. So whatever parameterized computations means whatever computation we do by using or accessing the parameters. So those collection of statements are called as procedures. When we go with the functions also a bit look like procedures by means of structure. But when we go with the semantics, they are a group of mathematical functions and also used and also computed by means of mathematically. So that is the main difference between the procedures and functions. So this is the introduction of subprograms. Thank you.